She wanna ride me like a cruise, and I'm not trying to lose. Then you're left in the dust, unless I stuck by you. You're a sunflower. I think your love would be too much, or you'd be left in the dust, unless I stuck by you. You're the sunflower. You're the sunflower.
Every time I'm leaving on you, you don't make it easy, no. Wish I could be there for you. Give me a reason to. Oh, every time I'm walking out, I can hear you telling me to turn around. Fighting for my trust and you won't back down. Even if we gotta risk it all right now. I know you're scared of the unknown. You don't wanna be alone. I know I always come and go, but it's out of my control. And you'll be left in the dust, unless I stuck by you. You're the sunflower. I think your love would be too much, or you'll be left in the dust, unless I stuck by you. You're the sunflower. You're the sunflower.
I hear the rhythm of waves hitting on the shore, and I can swear they're speaking, speaking, speaking. They're telling me to relax, I'm not good at that, but now I know I need it, need it, need it. I said, ooh, now what you do? My tan lines tell the truth. I said, yeah, I'm Venice Beach, got sand all in my shoes. Tonight, ooh, unlock me loose, see the sunset from the roof. That's right, yeah, that graced the blue, and I came out someone new. Hey, 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 and in my soul I'm feeling, and I'm trying to keep it cool. Way here in my soul I'm feeling, and I found a piece of me that I never knew.
You got my heart and I'm head over heels in love in California. Dreaming, 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 yeah. Touching the stars and then dragging them down to earth like California. Feeling, feeling, feeling. Oh, now what you do? Your brown eyes tell the truth. Yeah, down on the beach, I'm staying out late for you. Oh, unlock your loose, see the sunset from the roof. Yeah, you got to me, and I came out someone new. Hey, yeah, and in my soul I'm feeling, and I'm trying to keep it cool. Way here in my soul I'm feeling, and I found a piece of me that I never knew.
I'm melting like ice cream. The stress is gone for me. Nowhere I'd rather be.
Hey, yeah, and in my soul I'm feeling, and I'm trying to keep it cool.
Way here in my soul I'm feeling, and I found a piece of me that I never knew.
Hey, yeah, and in my soul I'm feeling, and I'm trying to keep it cool.
Way here in my soul I'm feeling, and I found a piece of me. Stay or leave. The cabinets are bare, and I'm unaware of just how we got into this mess. Got so aggressive. I know we meant all good intentions. So pull me closer. Why don't you pull me close? Why don't you come on over? I can't just let you go. Oh, baby, why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle? In the middle. Baby, why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle? In the middle. Oh, take a step back for a minute into the kitchen, floors are wet, and taps are still running, dishes are broken. How did we get into this mess? Got so aggressive. I know we meant all good intentions. So pull me closer. Why don't you pull me close? Why don't you come on over? I can't just let you go. Oh, baby, why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle? In the middle. Looking at you, I can't lie. Just pouring out admission, regardless of my objection. Oh, and it's not about my pride. I need you on my skin, just come over, pull me in, just. Oh, baby, why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle? In the middle, no, baby. Why don't you just meet me in the middle? Oh yeah, I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle? Oh, in the middle, baby. Why don't you just meet me in the middle, baby? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle, middle, in the middle, middle?
Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great day. Good morning to those here live. Again, you can come here and be in person with us. Peter's here. Oh, geez. Can't do that. Can't do that. Okay, sorry. Crazy camera moving. Can't do that. Okay. Tried to give you guys an aerial view. Apparently, you cannot do that with the camera. But thank you guys for coming. Welcome, Cody, one of our new agents. Second day here in the house. We are happy you're here. We also have Ashley who joined this week. I don't know if she's on, but welcome also, Ashley. Austin, let's start with the calendar. What we have going on? Okay, yesterday, it's officially summer. So we definitely feel that with the heat. We'll talk a little bit about that with some heat tips in a sec. But we have script practice this week. We have a class today with Morgan, Marketing 101 at noon. That is on Zoom only. So jump onto that. And then let's look at the rest of the week. We have Ignite, the last of this Ignite series on Wednesday.
We're getting close. We have technically, this will be the third to last. We have this one.
Oh, just kidding. Whoa. I was way off. Third to last. Okay. Contract to close. Okay, what then? Don't listen to me, folks. Just kidding. Okay. It would have been the last one. Okay, I'm not
then
that.
We have Tanya's on Monday.
Would have been the last. We have
So it's kind of
Peter's
pushed out.
makeup class on Friday, which is a great one. Yes, the pricing strategies and CMAs. And then we have Tanya's class on the putting it all together with the technology.
There we go, right?
Okay, so last official Ignite class. We had a couple of our own. So awesome.
So I'm going to go back real quick because it is important because we kind of skipped it. But Dwight has his wealth building series that is continuing with the second session this Thursday, but it's going to be in person only. We found that it's a lot more enriching when it's in person because there's a lot more discussion and he's able to answer questions a lot more effectively. So definitely jump in on Thursday at 10 to this class. They're really good. They're very, very helpful in understanding how to invest money properly. So
if you haven't been to one of those, that is not focused on your business. That is focused on your personal wealth building through real estate. So a really, really great opportunity to invest in yourself. So.
Oh, and I'm teaching Command on Thursday. So that's fun. Tanya's going to be out, so I'm going to be talking about how to manage and organize your database with tags in Command, and you know that'll branch off a bit, but we'll if anybody has any questions or want to know how to do that, come join that class on Thursday.
Jump on and ask Austin lots of hard questions.
Hard questions, please. It'll be recorded, so it'll be immortalized
Stump
forever.
Austin. Stump Austin in Command.
Be great.
Ask Kate and Austin. Okay. Let's talk about the hot weather. Is it supposed to 90s? Higher?
Yeah.
100?
Well, yeah, we're talking about maybe getting close to 110 Sunday or Monday.
No,
For
what?
real, you guys.
Here?
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah,
Lord.
we really are. So I wanted to take a quick second. I lived in Phoenix for 15 years. So let me just tell you, you'll survive. You guys can do this, but there are a couple of really great ways that you can show value to your clients and be safe at the same time. If you're out doing an open house this weekend or you're out showing properties, maybe today or tomorrow you want to go grab some water bottles and freeze them. So when you're out with your clients, you can give them a frozen water bottle, or your open houses, you're handing out really cold water to them. Make sure you brand them, stick your label with your branding on it on the water bottles. Another thing that you might want to think of, and I did check the inventory at the Home Depot that's here really close to the office. They have a lot of fans that are under $50. Maybe you want to go grab some. And the clients that you know that don't have air conditioning, this is a great value add to take it and drop it off for them and check in on them. Another thing you might want to do is reach out to your database. A lot of people that their pets are part of their family and they don't have air conditioning. This is going to be rough. There's a really great website called bringfido.com, and it allows you to book a hotel room that will let you bring your pet with you. And it links you right up through the website. Again, it's bringfido.com, and we'll put it in the chat box. But that's also a resource you can get out to your clients in case the heat's just too much for them and they need to get a room and bring their pet with them. So there's just a few things that you can do. This is one of those situational moments where you want to reach out to your people and just check on them and make sure they're okay.
Yeah, it looks
Awesome.
like Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Mhm.
Wild.
Yeah.
All over 100, up to maybe 106, but some areas might be 110, I assume, right?
Definitely.
That is crazy. Great tips.
Yeah.
And like young kids too.
Definitely watch out if you have car seats, I mean, in your car, because those belt buckles can give a 2nd-degree burn to their little skin. So throw a towel over the car seat if you're going to leave your car parked for any amount of time. Keep your windows cracked. There's just a lot of tips and tricks to try and just make it through this heat wave.
Right. And yeah, if you're out with doing showings and open houses, just making it comfortable for your clients and using that as a touch to your database. Great tips on the fans.
Mhm.
Awesome. Josh from Academy is live. Come on over.
You want me to come up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hot seat.
Yep.
Okay.
So while all of us gained the COVID-19, Josh is looking slim and good.
Thank you.
Looking handsome. I know we're not supposed to comment on people's face. Oops.
Oh,
Oh, what just happened? Austin, we're having technical difficulties.
Oh,
Okay.
there we go.
I literally broke the camera.
You scared
I'm so
everybody,
ugly, so. Okay, well, thanks for having me. I'll keep it brief. Just wanted to sort of remind everybody about a couple of products outside of the normal stuff as they continue to get creative with their clients and continue building value for those folks that they're trying to build their pipeline for down the road that might not necessarily, be buying right now. So we've got the Zero Down conventional program still, which is an awesome program. The limit recently went up, and I don't have it right in front of me, but it's a great program. I'm closing one shortly here with one of Rochelle's clients. So it's a great program. We also have a great doctor loan program that not only is just for MDs, but includes nurses and some other categories as well. Zero Down, no MI, and they have flexibility on student loans. So it is awesome, awesome program. for those folks who might be in your sphere that, you know, are in the medical profession. So please reach out to them as well. Let's see. Additionally, the market's a little sort of all over the place right now. We're recommending people lock in as they get under contract, especially with, you know, a lot of closes, you know, still being within that 30 and 45 day range. The market can be volatile. If you lose pricing and you can't get it back before you have to close, you're just sort of stuck with what you have. So we're recommending people lock in to avoid, you know, the risk of things going sideways. Other than that, any specific lending questions out there that I can help answer? Online or in person?
Anyone have any questions for Josh? What are jumbo loans doing?
They're doing good. So we've got several options for those also. We've got as low as 5% down. I've got one of those right now that we're closing on here in the next couple of weeks on a 5% down. We've got a couple 10% down options that loosened up. There was some pretty significant overlays for self-employed borrowers on jumbo loans. And one of the investors that we have that allows us to go as low as 10% down has recently removed those overlays and sort of have gone back to the normal underwriting for those folks as well. What they had done was they lowered the limit on debt to income for self-employed borrowers, but they've removed that and brought it back up now to about a 43% cap. So that's great as you have your self-employed borrowers coming back into the market as well. So.
Okay, great. And Brian has a question.
Yes. Hi. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
Josh, I just have a really quick question. I thought this was really interesting. I don't typically go to Yahoo, yahoo.com. I don't typically go to their page, but yesterday I found myself on their homepage, and at the top of the page, there was this like huge banner that said the feds are cutting interest rates down to 1.9%, and there's been this new change coming. And then when I did a little bit further investigation, it was, of course, an ad. It wasn't an actual legitimate story. It was an ad by this company. But I wanted to ask you if you have heard anything about that, or if that was just a hoax.
So you'll see a lot of these ads, you know, especially around mortgage rates and stuff out there, and they're sort of equivalent to the loss leader ads that dealerships would put out in the newspaper. And basically, it's to get you to apply once you get your actual information in the application. Then they come back with, you know, sort of what the real story is in regards to your specific situation. But mortgage rates are not, they are not priced off of the Fed rate. They're priced off of mortgage bonds. So although there is some correlation with what the Fed does in terms of raising and lowering the Fed rate, it's not a direct impact. The impact is what it has on mortgage bonds and what that causes them to do in the market. So as those rise and lower, you know, maybe based on news that the Fed may put out, then that's going to affect mortgage rates, positive or negative in that case. Sometimes, in fact, when they raise the Fed rate, that'll sometimes cause mortgage bonds to improve and rates to go down a little bit, and vice versa. So a lot of news out there, a lot of noise. The ones that turn out to be ads, you know, generally don't put a ton of stock in them. But if you have any questions, reach out anytime. And as far as we know right now, the Fed isn't, you know, increasing rates. But again, that Fed rate is more for the short-term lending than it is for long-term lending like mortgages.
And would you say that right now, when we speak to prospective buyers, that the interest rate, you know, for a 30-year fixed is still around 3%?
It is. So it's been fluctuating sort of between the 3 and the 3.25, 3.375, sort of depending on the day, if you include any points, what people's credit scores are, so on and so forth. But yeah, still, they're really great. But we saw some worsening late last week and early this week in mortgage bonds, which caused pricing to go up a little bit. Doesn't mean you can't get the same rate. Sometimes that just means there's some little bit of added cost to it. But yeah, still holding pretty good. Today we got a little bit of improvement over where we sort of ended yesterday. Again, sort of volatile up and down, but yes, still holding, really good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You betcha.
How long is
Question.
supposed to be?
Oh.
I mean, is it projected to go up? Or?
So that's really the question. We have anticipated that it's going to continue to go up a little bit. It's already gone up over where it was sort of 4 or 5 months ago, and we expect that it's going to steadily go up a little bit. Maybe by this time next year, we might be more into the high 3s, maybe low 4s.
Fair enough.
We'll see. It's hard to say. So every time, they come out with a statement saying one thing and it causes a negative market reaction, a lot of times they will often start to, backtrack on those comments because they don't want to cause too much volatility, in the market. So it's hard to say exactly, but we do expect that we're going to see some steady increases, over time, which, might curb some of these large over asking price offers also if, rates start to go up a little bit. So, might help balance things out. We'll see. Great question though.
March 23rd, 2023.
Okay.
At 3:01 p.m.
All right.
I had a quick question. So this is something that's been on my mind for a while, and I just somebody asked me about the other day, and I couldn't give them a good answer on it. So I'm going to ask you here. So on our purchase agreement, as it pertains to VA loans, we are instructed to check a box in our purchase agreement that says that the seller shall or shall not agree to pay buyer's non-allowable VA fees. So what are the implications of our actions of which box we check on our clients as it pertains to a VA loan?
So there's very few non-allowable fees.
Okay.
Anymore, it's sort of once you go over a certain percentage perhaps, and then also there's some specific fees. I'd have to pull them up, to give you those specifics, but that they're not allowed to cover. But for the most part, you're just getting your normal title and escrow fees on a VA loan, just like anything else right now. So the VA has this funding fee, but that's financed into the loan. So that's not considered a closing cost that's paid for by the borrower or seller at closing. It's a closing cost that's financed into the loan. But in terms of the, impact on your seller or buyer on your box, I'd have to look at that, read that again. But it's really not going to impact them really sort of either way, unless there is non-allowable fees that are included, in the deal, which is extremely rare these days for something like that to occur.
Perfect. And then, hey, here's another question for you. So, it's so competitive out there. VA borrowers, more VA borrowers than FHA borrowers I'm seeing, but they're still trying to bridge appraisal gaps. And then through the course of the transaction, the seller will be presented with a VA mandatory clause, which would kind of negate some of the verbiage that may have already been in that contract. There's no getting around that, correct?
No, the mandatory clause is there to protect the veteran, and the VA, that's sort of a catch-all for that veteran. So you can write something into it, but that mandatory clause is still, likely to trump that. So
for sure. And then, of course, the loan won't close without the mandatory clause being signed. So it's gotta be signed. It's a requirement. So I've done several VA loans, including recently, and a lot of times the veterans
who are utilizing the zero down. Oh, did we disappear again?
It's just our screen.
Oh, okay. They have the ability to cover the appraisal gap themselves, but since they have the ability, you know, and it's allowed to go zero down, many take advantage of that just simply because money is cheap.
Yeah.
And it makes sense for them to hold on to those reserves. So definitely, if you have VA buyers and you're representing the seller or you're on the buyer side, just make sure you have that conversation with them to make sure that they have a plan. If, you know, if they do want to put in something about the appraisal gap, that they, you know, that they have a plan for covering that, should that come up. We recently just did one, and the guy was putting 20% down. He, you know, he could have gone conventional, no problem. But he wasn't paying the funding fee due to a service-connected disability. The rates were really good, so he decided to go VA. Appraisal came in a little low, and he covered the appraisal gap himself. Plus, with the VA, you really sort of have two chances with the appraisal anyway, because if the appraisal is going to come in low, the appraiser is going to issue what's called a tidewater prior to giving you the appraisal report, which means you and the you know, the agents basically have 3 days to provide that the appraiser some relevant comps to justify the value of the property prior to them completing the appraisal. So it's great that they give you a heads up, and then it provides you the opportunity to, you know, justify that that value prior to them completing the appraisal. And so often you can curb that before the report's even out. So,
yeah, that's great. And that's good to have a good relationship with another appraiser. Just have them review an appraisal in that situation. Because sometimes for us to read them, if you haven't looked at a lot of appraisals, it's hard to kind of figure out what the devil is in those details. And so having another appraiser that you know well, that you can go to in that situation is really handy. Brian Wickersham had a question about what is a VA mandatory clause, FHA mandatory clause.
So it's basically, it's really similar to like the FHA escape clause. It gives the veteran the right to, if the appraisal comes in low, you know, to back out of the deal and still get their earnest money. So it's helping protect their, you know, their earnest money.
Perfect. So just contractually, guys, I don't want to go off on a tangent here too much and take up more time here. But if you go into an agreement with an FHA borrower, a VA borrower, and they're going to say that they're going to bring X amount of money to closing, later down the road, you're going to be presented with an addendum that's going to change that term contractually, because FHA, VA are going to protect that earnest money. So, if you're representing a seller, even a buyer to some degree, and you're presenting that term, know that it's going to get changed down the line. Otherwise, the loan just flat out won't close. I mean, they may still have the opportunity to negotiate a change in the purchase price or the change in their down payment, but it won't stand because of the addendum that your clients are going to have, the seller's going to have to sign to push the loan forward. That's all I got. Thank you.
Great questions. And yeah, Tracy put in the chat that she'd love some more information on that. So Tracy, reach out to Josh anytime.
Absolutely. Reach out anytime anybody's got any questions. I'm happy to serve.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry.
Oh, sure.
So, okay, Kelly, you just kind of threw me for a loop on that FHA stuff. I hardly ever, I mean, up until the last week, I don't think I've seen an FHA borrower for 7 years. So I definitely need help. So can the seller terminate the agreement if the appraisal is low, or does the seller just have to now accept it? So the price is 400, the appraisal comes in at 350. Does the seller have to accept that?
So section 5.2 of the purchase agreement then is exercised, and that states how the timelines for which the buyer and seller may renegotiate the terms at that point. So that's
But
where
the
that comes
amendment
in.
Clause
I
does
think-
not override that?
No, it does not. Correct. No,
Okay.
there's no saying, it does not say you have to sell or must accept the appraised value of the property. There are two things to consider here. One, and not so much in this market, but in a down market where people are struggling to qualify and they're using a lot of FHA financing, that appraised value will stick with the property for a period of, is it 6 months, Josh?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
So the appraised value on a federally funded loan sticks with the property for a period of time, doesn't it?
He asked if once the appraisal comes out, does it stick with the property for 6 months?
Oh, yes.
6 months. Yes. So in this market, Linda, it isn't really that relevant because FHA loans are so few and far between. But I remember like in 2009, 2010, when the market was tough, everybody was buying FHA and because nobody had cash. And the issue was that if you got a low appraisal, you were stuck with it because your next borrower, your next buyer was going to be FHA as well. So that was tough, but not so relevant today.
Okay. Okay, so that's all I wanted to make sure. The way I was listening, it sounded like the amendment clause actually overrode that.
Well, no, yeah. Only thing it overrides is anything that would say that the buyer would bring in this much more to closing.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And what about an agent that, and we didn't take this offer, but there was an agent that what she offered is if the appraisal came in low, that she would throw $2,000 or $3,000 of her commission so that it would at least, the offer then would at least be a couple thousand more than the appraisal.
Right. So, contractually, I don't know how that plays out to be, if that's, I think that's probably fine, but it is a violation of the Realtors Code of Ethics to talk about commissions in the purchase agreement.
Right. I know.
I mean,
So,
it seems a little funny to me, but that is what it is.
yeah.
Good-
Okay.
Good
Thank you.
questions. Good questions, Linda. And you can always run anything like that by Kelly. And Kelly does have his open office hours that are like, he's just there, that if anyone has questions that maybe others might have too, people can pop in. Although he's available most of the time to answer questions also. But I know a lot of people don't take advantage of those open hours, but sometimes it's cool to hear what other people have to ask. For example, those questions, Linda. So thanks for bringing that up. All right, well, we have our special guest live. I love it here. Peter, who's going to share with us what's going on with the market, what's our new normal, how things are shifting.
I'll just sit here.
Okay.
But with the,
Yeah, I'll do the clicker and everything, but I got that for you.
Okay.
oh yeah.
If the camera goes off and I come on, that makes sense. So, about 4 weeks ago or so, Alex looked at me and I looked at him and we said, the market shifted, didn't it? And the answer is yes, it has. The question is kind of what does that mean? And if you haven't been in the business since God invented dirt like I have, it's probably a little harder to pick up on those things. So I thought I'd take a few minutes today and kind of share with you why we felt the market shift, what the indicators are, and basically that kind of all rolls into what is now talked about as being the new normal. And we hear a lot of people talk about returning to normalcy in the market after 2020 and the COVID year. But I have yet to hear anybody that I respect say normalcy without putting the word new in front of it. And so it will, in fact, hopefully some of this will help you with your buyers and your sellers in determining how to move forward. So the first piece of this is supply. Now these are national indications, but you will see that the bottom line is 2021 The blue line is 2020. And typically we have on the nation around 800,000 to 1 million in inventory every year. And it fluctuates a little bit with the seasonality. And seasonality, as you probably know, we start ramping up in January. It peaks at the end of May, early June, and then the activity declines till the end of December, and then we start over again. 2020 did not work that way. So what this slide is indicating is that the new normal for probably the next 4 to 5 years is going to be low inventory. There's just no way out. And part of the reason, and some of you may have thought about this, that the interest rates are so low that typical move-up buyers who in a normal market would sell their existing home and move to a new one, look at it with the low interest rates and say, hey, I can keep both of them. And so they're keeping their first home as a rental. And as a consequence, in the last 12 months, about 8 million homes were removed for the for sale pool and put into the rental pool. So how do we get those back? Hard to say. The indications are that foreclosures are a thing of the past for the next period of time. So we're not going to be getting people there. There's a combination of things. It's a long discussion, but qualifications for buyers have been strict and maintained. The lenders have maintained those requirements. But interest rates are so low and equity gains are so large that if somebody does get into trouble, they can simply put their home on the market, sell it, pocket the cash. And so if you have buyers out there that says, oh, this is a bubble, I'm just going to wait for all these foreclosures, you can tell them that the next time they're going to buy houses probably in 7 to 10 years, because it's typically potentially could be that long. New construction, particularly around here, this is nationally, but you can see that we're way behind. In fact, on a national level, they're talking about a minimum of 4 to 5 years before new building ramps up enough to begin to ease the inventory. And I'll get on my high horse. We don't have time for it, but most of you know that we have something called an urban growth boundary. And that's going to further restrict the local market as far as new construction goes. And basically the only shot we have is a bit of remaining land and then building up. So single family homes, except for they did away with single family zoning at some point. So ADUs and second homes in your backyard and things, but it's not going to be enough to take care of our inventory issue. So one of the things that is a very positive indication, and it's a little hard to do this, but immediate sales are defined as those that come on the market and go pending within hours or days. And right now, there's about 25% of every home nationally that comes on the market does that. But we've had 3 weeks now of decline in the percentage of immediate sales, which means that it is exactly what we would expect if you take 2020 out of the mix. So
I'm sorry.
What it's saying is the percentage of sales that on a national level that sell within the first number of hours or maybe a maximum of 4 days, 25% of the homes that came on the market were sold within that time frame. Okay. And what we're seeing is a decline in that percentage, i.e. homes are staying on the market longer or a more normal period of time.
But I was just curious as to why that's happening. Is it because?
Well, it's probably because, let me go into pricing, and then if it doesn't answer your question, we'll circle back, but it's a good question. So supply is one part of the new normal, pricing is the other. As you can see, well, let's see, can you do this? Yeah, see, we have this normal cycle. Well, it went away.
Here, I got that right.
Huh? Oh yeah, where's my little, there it is. I gotta get down there.
Yeah. Do this. Where you can get a little spotlight for you.
Yeah,
And
there you
now,
Can they see that on the Zoom?
yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
So,
Sorry, it's back there. The mouse is backwards.
oh God, I lost control again. So, you see this kind of a normal seasonality. Again, I always talk to my clients about it being Mount Hood. You start the climb in January, you crest the top of Mount Hood or the peak at the end of May, early June, and then you walk back down. And you can see that right here, and these are kind of week by week. This is the start of a return to normalcy. The median home price is beginning to go down, which is exactly what we would expect if the market were, quote, normal. Any of this making sense?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
good stuff.
All right. So one of the biggest concern, or one of the biggest indications that we're returning to a normal seasonality is the percentage of homes that are suffering a price reduction or incurring a price reduction. It's typically on a national market between 30 and 35% of all the homes that come on the market come on too high. They have to bring the prices down. 2020 was not the case. It just, a home would come on the market at some ridiculous price and then it get bid up to an even higher price. Tell all of my sellers I have two technical real estate terms for the current market, or at least the market that has been and is to some extent. The first one is stupidity and the second one is forgiving. So if they say, do I need to paint this room? The answer is no, it'll sell. Do I need to stage it? Probably. You'll get maybe a little bit more, but if it's immaculate, maybe not. Some of those things change because of the velocity of the market and the number of homes are bidding up. But when Alex and I decided the market had shifted a bit is when we put a $450,000 house on the market and on Thursday, and we didn't get our first offer until Monday. We thought perhaps the sky had fallen and everything was over. And we only ended up, I believe, getting 3 offers. And 2 or 3 months ago, we would have expected 15 or more offers on that. So this little guy right here is an indication of going back to a more normal market. This is national, about 14% appreciation over 2020, over this time over last year. That's a huge number. If this were expected to go, every investor on the planet would be bringing their cash in, which they have been doing anyway. But in talking to several different people, the consensus is that this is an anomaly and that we are going to go back, and the expectations for 2022 will probably be 3 to 5% normal appreciation. I hope that's the case, because if this were to continue, it would be a good indication of a bubble. That being said, I'm willing to state my opinion is there is no bubble. We have simply reset the bottom benchmark. And one of the reasons I say that is that throughout my career, I've always followed 2 other cities, and they have to be West Coast. And so, of course, they are Seattle and San Francisco. And over the years, something would happen in San Francisco. It'd take about 1.5 years before it impacted Seattle. And then it'd take about 1.5 years before it got here. And you could kind of see where things were headed. That time frame is compressed dramatically. But in San Francisco, for instance, you are very happy if you can purchase a home for about $1,200 a square foot. In Seattle, they're in the 5s, upper 5s and low 6s, and we're still down in the upper 3s and low 4s. So we are a West Coast city. We are the cheapest city, and everybody's going to come here. Then there's the political side of things, which we won't go into in detail, but what I understand from people moving to San Francisco is that, yeah, your city's on fire in one spot, but our whole city sucks. So they're worse off than we are, and they're still coming. I don't know if any of the rest have experienced, but we're not seeing our buyers coming from Texas or Colorado or any of the East Coast states, because everybody that we talk to says, oh, they canceled, we're not coming that way because your whole city's on fire. But that's a different story. So this indication is things are coming down, and the expectations are from those much smarter than I that it's going to be about maybe 3, 4, 5% appreciation, which would be normal, so I'm probably not the only one that's heard a buyer say, we're just going to wait for the bubble to burst and then we're going to get a deal. As somebody said, the question to ask is, how long do you want to wait? And I asked them if they want to wait for interest rates to start rising. And if interest rates go up 1%, they're going to lose 12% of the buying power. And you add to that, let's just say a 5% appreciation rate. So if they wait till next year to buy, they'll be buying a house that's 17% less than they could have afforded if they bought today. So all indications are that are for a healthy return to a more normal seasonality. That does not mean that everything's going to open up. We're going to have low inventory. That's the new normal for probably 4 to 5 years. I don't remember, I just did this. But we are going to return to normal seasonality. We're going to continue to have low inventory, and we're going to see hopefully a slowdown in appreciation. And from a buyer standpoint, they may be able to take 2 or 3 breaths in between making a decision once a home comes on the market instead of having to make that offer. We're seeing it on all of our listings have slowed down the velocity. We're still getting offers over list price, but it may only be 1 or 2 offers instead of 16 or 17. And so if I were a buyer, I wouldn't be waiting. Now, real briefly, just to kind of finish up or answer any questions that there are, this is our pending sales. You can see, I always ask my sellers, can you tell where COVID hit? Well, this purple is 2020. Right in here, Alex and I were counting our pennies and upping our savings accounts and, trying to figure out how we were going to handle the next 12 months. And then it took off. And as you can see, we ended 2020 above any of the last, well, there's 4 years here, but you can go back to 2015. It just screamed. January, I thought, oh, good, we're gonna get reasonable here, but now we're well up above in pending sales, and we should peak out maybe about the same. But you'll notice that I'm going to go back. This is our seasonality. It peaks, except for this guy, it peaks in May and it goes back down. By peaking and saying we're on a decline, I am not trying to indicate that the rest of the year is going to be awful. It's not. It's just going to be somewhat slower. And there'll be more time. The number of transactions will reduce. It typically, July and August are good. In September, there's usually a little hiccup where it goes up a bit, the last people getting in before school starts. And then it's a gradual decline until the market picks up. I used to sit and watch Zillow on New Year's Day and watch the activity level. And about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, after most of the football games are over West Coast time, Zillow just goes crazy. The number of views just go through the roof. And that's interesting to tell your buyers and your sellers. If they're a seller and the activity goes up, most people don't bring their homes on the market until end of March or April, because they've all been told that summer is the best time to sell a home because that's when the most homes closes, but they were actually purchased 45 to 60 days in advance. So if somebody comes in and seller says, well, I'm going to, I want to come on in the spring because, my house will sell for a lot more when the flowers in front have bloomed. The answer is perhaps, but you'll be competing against a larger inventory. There'll be more competition, and the buyers are ready to go right now. So get on the market and get ahead of the curve. We like to list right in here, end of February, mid-February on, if is one of our best times to do it. And then closed sales, we don't know where we'll end up, but indications are based on the pending sales that will peak about the same as 2020. And just in kind of conclusion, this is our inventory. It was at 0.7 months of inventory, which we all know means that if no homes come on, that we're allowed to come on the market in less than 3 weeks, there wouldn't be a home for sale in all of Portland. So that's kind of an indication what's going on. And the shift, I think, is very, very positive. And well, could you I got just a minute, go to Altos for me.
Oh.
Share real quick.
Let's go right here.
So much good stuff, Peter. I love all your drafts.
Well, next time I'll actually spend more time preparing. But so instance, if you know, it is a strong seller's market. This is all of Portland. It is a strong seller's market. This is, of course, Altos. And you all have this, compliments of Dwight, Tony, and myself. It is spectacular and is something I spend a lot of time with when I'm on a listing presentation. But you can see in all of Portland, 30 is a balanced market. We're a little bit beyond a balanced market. This is a seller's market, and it's going to stay that way. But here's what's interesting. List prices are coming down, the median list price. Price decreases. Do you see if I can get rid of this guy. You can see the number of price decreases are trending up, which is exactly what we would expect to happen in this market, which means that we're going back to a normal seasonality, or a new normal, including seasonality. Price increases. That means, this basically means that most of the flippers that you know couldn't afford to buy a house to flip. And then, of course, you know, the market action. I never look at this thing without looking at the market segments. But Altos has if you go to their website, you can download an ebook that tells you how to use this in your business. And Dwight was the guy that brought this to me. And once I delved into it, I wondered how I ever did anything without it. There is more information here than you'll ever need. So if you've got somebody who's got a bazillion-dollar, multi-million-dollar home or over $1 million, this is the segment. And they said, but look, you know, our market action index, it's nuts. Look, we're up here. Well, no, you're not. And I have been doing some CMAs recently for the first time. I have a column that shows in my CMAs original list price versus closed price or current list price. And for about 12 months or more, I haven't seen a red bracketed figure come up, but rarely. And we see them on a much higher percentage of everything that we're doing, these price decreases, which is normal. But it's encouraging for you if you're working with buyers, and it would be inappropriate and expensive for a buyer to decide to sit and wait for something that most experts say is not coming. So we're not involved. That's it.
That's great. And all those things you just said last are really important, because when you're showing this to your buyers, they might say, well, wait, should I wait? Because the dial says it's a seller's market. I'll just wait till it's a buyer's market. But adding in those other details that you just said are really important.
If interest rates go up, the only thing that's going to cure our inventory shorting in the short term is a fairly dramatic and consistent rise in interest rates, because that will pull people out of the market. But that's about it. Other than that, we're going to have to wait for the builders of the world to catch up. And when interest rates go up, then people won't probably be keeping their first home as a rental, and that will fill into it. But
That was a wild stat. I wrote that down. 8 million.
8 million.
8 million people kept their houses as rental houses that would have gone into the market. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Look, you got a Peter Rocks in the comments. You do rock.
Thanks, Brian.
If you don't know where to find those Altos reports, you can reach out to Austin and he will set you up with them, and you can drill down to the zip code, the county, or the city. And those are updated weekly, which is really cool because the RMLS market action report is great too, but that is updated monthly. So that's why the Altos reports are so great. And you can just do a boom printout, nice 1-pager, or there's like a 4-pager that you can bring with you to meet with clients that's branded to Keller Williams Portland Premier and looks really nice. So you have something to talk about on your appointments. Okay, Brian Williams asks, how would you use the Altos reports currently on a listing appointment? It seems that it would sway the seller to wait until next February or March to sell.
It's a bit longer discussion, Brian, but I don't read it that way. That down depends on which one you pull up. If you look at price decreases, they're going up. Why would you wait if your competition prices are getting lower? I mean, there's all kinds of pieces to it. And there's so much information in these things. It's, really one of my favorite things to do is that Altos does a weekly video report, and you need to get on their, subscribe to their mailing list through us and watch those. But if you want to stop by, we can have that discussion, Brian, but there's no simple answer to that.
Okay, let's see. Hold on. Mia says, I've seen that an increase in hedge fund corporations and residential real estate are increasing. Have you seen a large companies putting in offers on any of your listings here in Oregon?
I don't think we've seen any come in as, a corporate, but there are individual buyers out there that have pools of millions of dollars. The number of cash offers that we see right now compared to a typical year is probably 3 times more than it normally is. And that is some of it, but like home buying corporation, hedge fund, XYZ, we're not seeing those on our earnest monies.
Good questions. And yeah, Brian, when you sign up for the Altos reports through the office, you get those weekly videos that Peter was talking about that kind of explain them. Because of the inventory, the pricing, there's a lot of different components that, as Peter said, are just starting to change. So your conversations are gonna kind of shift.
And Nina, just real quick, I thought of a comparable situation when back in the day, it was typical that a builder in Portland would do maybe 6 to 8 homes. And there was a whole bevy of small builders. And they were typically operating on a gross margin of about 21%, 15% after selling fees and all of that. And there weren't any big builders in town at the time. And but the big builders, national builders, were working on a 4% margin. Somebody let the cat out of the bag back in early 2000s about what were they able to do here. And consequently, by 2009 or 10, even as a consequence of the crash, but also these big builders, they would come in and buy the entire subdivision. And all of those builders I used to work with, most of them became supervisors for the major corporations. So the same thing will happen here is if our margins, our prices get significantly better than the other West Coast cities, they'll be here.
I love it. Such good questions coming from our new agents. I love it. Any other questions for Peter? I love those stats. If you liked what you saw today, look, I'm going to give you a plug here. Peter is teaching Ignite on Friday. And Peter does such a good job of teaching pricing strategies and creating CMAs, and especially in our market that we've had over the past year and, you know, where it's going in the future, doing CMAs is even more challenging, right? So we added this class. This isn't even part of Ignite. We just made it ours. So it's not in your official Ignite books. It is such a good class that Peter teaches 9 to 11 in this room on Friday. So anyone's welcome to join, not just our new agents. It's a great class taught by Peter. So
One last comment that doesn't
Yeah.
have anything specifically to do, but I just want to share a recent experience. Might find it interesting. We're listing a home, those 1,500, 1,700 square foot single level in Tigard. And when I drove up, there was another home that didn't have the same street appeal. And I stopped. It had just come on the market at 550. And it was about the same size. And I went to my seller, and after I did the CMA and looked at it, I discovered that if you listed a similar home at 550, it went for 565. But if you listed a home for 525, they got bid up to 575. Is that logical? No. Is it part of the market? So I convinced my seller, wasn't difficult. I showed him the trend to go in at 525, and we're under contract at 577, and the other home is still on the market. So it gets really exciting, if you like stats, for me to look at these things and discover that kind of information that will help. And I'm going to be talking about that and a lot of other things on Friday. And as much as I try not to do it, I end up doing most of my listing presentation as part of it, because if we're talking through, because that's how I talk to sellers. So hopefully you'll find it valuable.
Well, it's so good because it helps you build that credibility if you haven't done a lot of listing presentations. And even if you have, but if you haven't, it helps you really get that confidence because you're using data, right? You're not just winging it. Is the stat in the Altos report? A lot of those stats that you talked about today were in the Altos report.
The charts that I used today are from Altos, and they're in one of his video presentations. They don't come out of Altos that we get exactly that way. But if you go into YouTube, Altos YouTube channel, I think this one was, are we in a bubble? Or it's one of the ones from about 3 weeks ago. But, and it's about a 45-minute presentation. They're very informative, and you do not have to stay up night and look at stats like I do to understand them and be able to use them. He's very, very clear on how they apply to our day-to-day business.
Oh, and no, Melanie, that example that Peter just gave was just in him looking at the comps.
Yeah, just the comps.
And Brian, yes, that class is this Friday, like 4 days from now, 9 a.m. here. 3 days from, what day is it? 3 days from now.
It's like I sent out an offer at 8 o'clock last night with a 9 o'clock expiration on June 21st. And they wrote back and said, "You mean I only have an hour?" And I went, "No, I guess I don't know what day it is."
All right. Okay. Any final questions? Thank you so much, Peter. We hope everyone has a great day. Stay cool out there. Thanks, Peter.
You bet.